I'm happy to report that our committee is really back on track. We have a new Republican lead, Mike Conaway of Texas. I think he's a very serious guy. We've had a number of good conversations since he took the Republican reins. If we go on for months and months and then we suddenly issue a report, I don't think it'll have the public's confidence if they haven't seen how we have proceeded with the investigation. So I'm hoping that where we can, we do as much of this as possible in public.
That was a notable endorsement there. Welcome back to the 11th hour. Ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff of California, talking about this Russia investigation facing his committee when Congress comes back from their recess next week. And new tonight, the New York Times is reporting that it was Carter Page, his visit to Moscow last summer after joining the Trump campaign, that piqued the intelligence community's interest in him. The Times reports, quote, "It is unclear exactly what about Mr. Page's visit caught the FBI's attention. Meetings he had during his 3 days in Moscow, intercepted communications of Russian officials speaking about him, or something else." As recently as last week, Page has denied any wrongdoing. Jeremy Bash remains with us, and joining our conversation tonight, Sam Stein, the veteran senior politics editor for The Huffington Post. Hey, Sam, welcome. We're going to get to you on the politics in a moment, but we're going to start with Mr. Skullduggery, a veteran of the intelligence industry first. Jeremy, this article in the Times, the headline is quite simple. Trump's advisors' visit to Moscow sent the FBI digging. It's by Shane Mazzetti and Goldman. Bylines sound like law firms lately because there are so many journalists covering this administration. What interests you in this story specifically, Jeremy?
A great deal, Brian. And this story sent me back to 50 U.S. Code 1801, the FISA statute. And in that statute, if you look at it, it says that if you are a United States person, an American, and of course Carter Page is, the FBI has to find and show a federal judge probable cause that you knowingly engaged in foreign intelligence clandestine collection, and that you became, in effect, an agent of a foreign power. So it wasn't just some guy bumbling around Moscow, unwittingly working with the Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation. He knowingly did this, and a federal judge believed it. And other reporting we've seen, Brian, from this story shows that it was in part the dossier written by Chris Steele, the former MI6 operative, that led the FBI to take this case to the FISA court. And of course, we know that the FISA court wouldn't just rely on the dossier or a trip, and so there must be more out there, and these investigations will get at that.
All right, Sam Stein, when Jeremy talks about these investigations, let's start with the House. We heard from Schiff talking in a very hopeful tone about what might happen. Devin Nunes has been placed aside. Mike Conaway from Texas is in. Is that enough of a trade-up to make the ranking member sound optimistic?
Apparently. Obviously, what happened a couple weeks ago is this whole weird saga of Devin Nunes going to the White House to get documents that he then showed to the White House, which was not just a distraction. It really undercut the ability of the House committee to investigate this matter to the point that Nunes basically had to step aside. So now we're in a position where the committee seems to be getting back on its feet. They're not exactly forthcoming about the status of the investigation for obvious reasons, but it does seem like they're clawing back into the game. They still are behind what seems to be much more competently run Senate committee investigation. You listen to Senator Burr, Senator Warner, who are running these things. They seem to be actually collaborating on this matter much more fruitfully than what's going on in the House. But even then, when you talk to these people, you ask, how long will this take? And the answers you get is somewhere between 6 to 8 months, and that is sort of optimistically. So this thing is going to continue. We will continue to incrementally get updates from it, but there's no clean, quick resolution to this.
Jeremy, I want to tiptoe back to what you mentioned before, the dossier. It's notable, and we should repeat, we have never read its contents on the air, A, because we cannot match all the reporting in it, and B, because it's a family broadcast and there are some sordid details. But you're talking about, there's been other reporting, but specifically a CNN report has said that there are elements in that dossier that the FBI might well have confirmed, run down, and acted upon in going to a federal court and requesting one of these FISA surveillance warrants.
That's right, and I should be clear, it's not just the FBI running to a FISA court. It's the United States Department of Justice with career professionals who are officers of the court, and they have to vouchsafe in a series of pleadings under oath that the information they are giving to the court they believe to be true. And then a federal judge, lifetime appointment, Senate confirmed, nonpartisan, has to find probable cause to believe that that information is correct. And so for us now to know that at least some elements of the dossier are correct really opens the aperture into what this investigation could reach.
Sam Stein, now to the disconnect that still exists between the president and members of his team. Some members of his team speak about Russia the old-fashioned way, the way we used to talk about Russia a year or two ago, and Vladimir Putin. I want to show you this tweet from, this is a piece in the Washington Post tonight that quotes the president's tweet, "Things will work out fine between the USA and Russia." This is last week on the president's Twitter account. At the right time, everyone will come to their senses and there will be lasting peace. A, we're greatly relieved to read that. B, yes, there is, Sam, still this disconnect.
It's a very bizarre disconnect where senior members of the administration seem to be not just reading off a different script, but have an entirely different geopolitical worldview with respect to Russia than the president himself. And so you have, for instance, Ambassador Nikki Haley at the UN condemning Russia's complicity with the chemical weapons attacks in Syria, and then you contrast it against some of these tweets, and you just are sort of struggling as you watch this to come to an explanation. I think this is inviting a lot of the more insidious, conspiracy-minded theorists around there to come to their conclusions about Trump's ties to Russia. But there's also other more benign explanations. For instance, there's this theory that he just has an affinity for strongmen. There's just no clear reasoning for why he talks this way, especially when there's all this clear evidence of Russia meddling in world affairs that's contrary to U.S. interests.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.